First off, I want to start the video by saying this is Jared Campbell. I am the high school principal at Timpson ISD. I appreciate having a couple here with me today. I've decided to talk about professionalism. It seems as though professionalism is something that we think a lot of times is understood. I kind of go back when I think about professionalism and how to talk about it. I almost go back to conduct. When you're in elementary, you know, kind of how you acted, how you did, how you handled things. And in talking to, Dr. Scusa and everything, it seems as though we've kind of forgotten some points of the professionalism. I found a definition that I thought was pretty good of professionalism. It says, professionalism is a quality that every educator and school employee should possess. Administrators and teachers represent their school district and should do so at all times in a professional manner. This includes being mindful that you are still a school employee even outside of school hours. And so there's a lot that goes along with that. You know, it states that the employee should possess. Administrators and teachers represent their school district at all times. There's something that I kind of think about there is I've talked to people and students, and I tell them all the time, you represent your family. You should always be sure that when you're out and about, no matter what you're doing, that you represent your family and you represent them well. And so as a teacher, that's what you're doing. You are Timpson ISD. We have done a big job here at the district, and what we've tried to do is we've tried to brand Timpson ISD. We've tried to give it a feel. We've tried to give it a look. We've had some success, so that kind of helps with that brand. And so we want our teachers to be a part of our brand. We want them to buy in. We want them to be a part of this and have the same mindset. With that being said, professionalism seems to be something that is starting to slip away from us a little bit. There was actually an incident here around our area this past week, and I was talking to our superintendent. I was talking to Dr. Johnson, and he said, we were talking about how this person had gotten in trouble, and he said, do they teach them that? Do they tell them that? Not only that it's not acceptable in that profession, but do they also tell them how important it is and what kind of repercussions could be coming to them? So we kind of want to touch some of that stuff as we begin to talk. So, I apologize. Moving forward, professionalism, conduct, how you act. To me, there's 3 different levels of it in education. You have to have professionalism when you're working with your boss as a teacher. That would be with your principal and your superintendent. There's another level to where, as a teacher, you must know how to speak and how to work with your co-workers, other teachers, other staff, aides, custodial, transportation, whoever it may be, other employees of the district. And then the last one would be with the students, and not just the students, but the parents also. So we want to kind of talk about those 3 levels of professionalism and what we have to do, and points that we need to talk about, things that we need to stress. To start off, we have to recognize that all the students have their rights. We have to understand that, and they are members of the community and their family. We have to understand that, and going forward, that something, respect has become something I look at a lot different as I'm starting to get older. I know my father is old school, and he believes that respect is earned. It's earned, and that you don't respect that kid, they have to respect you. Things have kind of changed a little bit, and so it's important that you give those students the respect. But most of all, we want you to respect the district. We want you to respect the things that we ask you to do. We're not going to ask you to do anything that is against any moral deal. So we really want you to pay attention to that. I'm going to start with the point that I was talking about first, is you and your professionalism towards your boss. You must maintain confidentiality at all times. There's times that your boss is going to come to you and talk about things, and ask questions, and that needs to maintain and stay confidential. There's a reason for that, because if they trust you enough to come and talk and ask your opinion, if you want that to continue to happen, then you've got to learn to stay quiet and respect that relationship. You must listen to your assignment and do what you're supposed to. Part of that professionalism is doing what you're asked to do. It's a huge joke in education that everybody's contract says, and other duties to be determined. Nobody wants to go to lunch duty. If you're assigned it, make sure you're there, make sure you're on time, because somebody has to be there. If there's any type of event to where you're going to be late or you're going to miss, please make sure that you give your, this part of professionalism, I'm going to say that word a lot, is that you have to be able to let them know as soon as possible. One of the worst things is to show up. I do it every morning. It's really been bad these last couple of years with COVID, because people are sick, people are out. It's become my routine that every morning when I walk in, I walk straight into the secretary's office, and my question is, what do we got? In other words, what I'm saying is who's here, who's not here, what's going on, what subs do we have, what subs don't we have, and so we can kind of plan our day out and get it done. We hate to walk in and not know that somebody is not going to be there. So it's something, the number one purpose of the school system is to educate the kids. And if you're not here and we don't know you're here, we can't get anybody to help us out with that. So please make sure that you notify that teacher. Any concerns or complaints that you have about the district itself, something you may not like. I tell people all the time, there's a lot of rules and regulations that I don't like that the state puts on us, but the state doesn't ask me either. And so we just have to go ahead and push forward. So there may be things that you disagree with the district and everything, but any complaints you have, you need to make sure that you find your boss or the person just up the ladder. It's a good place to talk about chain of command. As the high school principal, if you're upset with me, come to me. Don't run to the superintendent. I try to be very open and I'm honest. If there's something that I've done that upsets you, I want to know about it. I want to fix it if possible. You may just be mad because I'm asking you to do something. But please just don't start stirring the pot. Don't run to all your colleagues and just start talking about stuff. We have to understand the way to fix it is to go to the point of the problem. We have to observe all safety. All safety for the district. So if we're asking you to do things, we look at our campus as having 3 levels of defense. We kind of have the chains outside, or the chains. We have the chain link fence around the district, and then we have the doors into the buildings, then we have the doors into the classroom. We want to make sure that we're safe at all times and that we use all those to the best of our ability. Moving forward, this is something that you shouldn't think that you should have to talk about. But the more that you watch the news, the more that you kind of pay attention to things that are going on in the world and in businesses and in education, there's several of you that are going to have to do some kind of money handling at sometimes. As far as we have people that work the gate at games, to we have people, the junior class working the concession stand, to you're doing a fundraiser for your group, you're the ag teacher and you're selling something, you're going to be handling money at all times. Understand that all of that money needs to go through the business office. Please don't become your own personal bank. We can't do that stuff. That is a level of handling our business that we don't want to. And when we come to that money, that's a good way. And again, we want you to know what we expect of you, but we also want you to know what could happen. That is a good way to be able to lose your job. We don't want to play with those, play with the money that's kind of coming in and out. We've actually tried to go to a lot of stuff to where we're using not a lot of cash. We would prefer, we have a print shop here, we have our own team store. The lady that's in there, we basically do almost all credit cards. And so we sell more too, it's kind of funny. But we ask that, that we don't want her to have to handle that cash all the time, so we kind of do that. We've thought about going to the concession stand with it, but we haven't made that move. Upon that, don't make any, again with money, don't make any fraudulent, I guess you could say, requests for money. Don't make a fake request for money. Don't ask for something for the business office. Don't put in a PO for something that you don't need or use of the credit card and use it inappropriately. We are audited very often in the business office. They look at all those expenses. They look at those receipts. They want to see that stuff. Don't go to the store to use the school credit card and buy something that is not for the school. Just a quick little story that's kind of funny. Our school district will give you, at the beginning of the year, we'll go to Walmart and you'll get $150, $200 to spend on your classroom however you want to. And they actually check you out, and the principals are there to pay as you come through. And when I was still teaching, we actually slipped back to the produce department, or I guess back to the dairy department, and we got a gallon of milk and slipped it in one of our fellow teachers' buggies. And so when she went to check out and she saw the gallon of milk, we made sure we were close by to ask her why she was buying groceries. So that was just a joke, but don't do that stuff. Make sure you're using those. Make sure you're using those cards and everything for the exact purpose that you have put in for the PO. Also, you shouldn't receive any personal privileges or pay from anyone else just because of your job. Again, that's money. Make sure that the reason it's coming in is proper. Make sure it's going through the business office. Let's please take care of that. Next one, again with your boss and with the district, do not falsify any records. Student records, no matter what it is, please don't falsify them. Don't try to make it up. I know even we've had some times to where we've had a receipt go missing or whatever, and we were able to actually contact back to the business and have them get us another receipt. Don't try to make that happen without letting everyone else know actually what is going on. Again, to the district, no threats of violence, and have good moral character. That good moral character is something in today's society that is starting to get a little bit warped. What is moral character? There's a lot of us that have a different moral character or more moral character than other people. And so the reason that we're having to talk about that is due to all these changes that are taking place and what people believe is right and what people believe is wrong. We have to make sure as a district that we do that, and we continue to conduct ourselves properly. Once applying here or applying for another job, a lot of times in small districts, another job comes open, somebody here wants to go into that job. Make sure when you're doing that, you follow all the proper channels, and please make sure you don't misrepresent yourself. Once you start applying for jobs, make sure that all the information that you put out there is correct. This one is one that is kind of crazy. These last two, it's crazy that these days that we even have to talk about it. Do not use illegal drugs, tobacco, alcohol on school campus. You do not want to bring that stuff here. I know it's a big time. I've been a coach, been around coaches. I know the smokeless tobacco, the dip is a big thing. That's not good to have on the campus. It's something that if you're doing it, it's not setting a good example toward the kids, and so we need to make sure that we're not doing it also. I put a note in here to really talk about this part when you're away from school. I understand that when we leave here, that we're not in the district, we're not that, but you still represent, like in the definition that I read, you represent the district here and away. And so the drug use, the alcohol, I don't want to go to a restaurant, and plus I wouldn't, but I'm not going to go order a beer and sit there and give the opportunity for students to walk in and see me doing that. And so even away from the district, make sure that you're using proper judgment, and you're selling the brand of Timpson ISD. The last note that I have in this level of kind of the professionalism of you with your district, I want to talk about social media and social media towards the district. I do believe that social media had a good intent, but us as adults and the people that we are, we have absolutely ruined it. It has its very good purposes, but it's also being used in a very wrong way. I have seen people take to Facebook and bash the district that they are employed by. Not a real good decision in my mind. Again, if you're not gonna be a part of the district, if you're not gonna sell the district, if you want to do that on your social media, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't understand if people want to bash it so bad and talk about it. I don't know why you would really even want to be here. So again, make sure that as an employee of the district that you are black and gold. You know, that's our school colors. Be a bear. Make sure that you're setting an example that you want everyone to follow, and most of all, that when people see you, again, when the district has a lot going really, really good here the last few years. It's been a good deal. This new facility that we're in is absolutely amazing. The college that we're doing, our sports are doing amazing. So we want to carry that on in the classroom, and we want you to provide that example of excellence to each and every student that we have. Next, we want to talk about your conduct towards your colleagues. This is the one that gets pretty interesting. I've seen some districts or talked to some principals to where their campuses are very cliquey, is the word that they use, where you have your group of people here and your group of people here and your group of people here, and they get upset with each other and nobody wants to talk to each other, and they all have their own ways of doing things. We do not want to get into that. It's not something that we want to deal with. If we all grab a hold and we all pull in the same direction, there's going to get some good things to happen. First off, within your professional group, once again, be confidential. Make sure that if you're talking about somebody else or whatever, you know what's going on. If there's a reason for you to know about a teacher's health or something else that a teacher is going through, that's the information that was brought to you. It's not to be spread anywhere else. Here's the big one. Because in today's world, this has become a big deal, and it's politics. I actually have a guy that I work with now, absolutely wonderful man. I always tell the story, I always say that if I was to break down in 20 miles away, I could call him and I could promise you that he would come help me. Now, if we're going to sit and talk politics, me and him aren't going to agree. And that's okay. But people don't have the ability these days to agree to disagree. There's something that I absolutely love about him is no matter how much we disagree with each other, we treat each other no different. We still love and care for each other, but we don't need to get into politics with each other and disagree with each other and start to mistreat each other because of it. It's something to where if we all agreed, maybe it would be boring. But we have to learn as adults to be able to talk to each other, to be able to disagree, to be able to learn. You know, there's been times, I kind of hate to say it, maybe I've been wrong about something. And then you kind of start to hear it from someone else and you go, well, maybe I am wrong. You research it, you figure it out, and you move on. So we have to make sure that we stay away from those politics. I'm going to go ahead and, while I'm on that topic, I'm going to jump to students. There is absolutely no reason in the classroom that we should be talking to any students about any politics, bringing up any type of political anything. We don't want to. I don't know the way I want to say it. We just don't want to bring that up. We don't want to get into that discussion because students have a hard time of agreeing to disagree. And then usually what happens is if they disagree or they're hearing something different at home, they go home and tell the parents are upset that they're talking about it. So we don't want to talk politics at all. If you're in the English classroom, we want to talk English. If you're in the math classroom, we want to talk math. We don't want to talk about Russia, Ukraine, the border. We don't want to talk about any of that stuff. That's not our job here. We don't want to try to push our mindset or our beliefs politically on anybody. So that's with teachers and students. We should never look at someone because of their race, because of the way they were raised, because of where they live, because of their family. As co-workers, we should love each other regardless. I can say that right now that we have an absolutely wonderful staff, and it is an absolute blast to get together. Everyone loves each other, everyone cares for each other. Yes, we get upset with each other, but to my knowledge, I don't know, there may be some of you that can't stand me, but to my knowledge, it's a deal to where everything goes pretty smooth, and I feel like we can openly communicate with each other, and we want to continue that type of relationship and that type of environment while we're teaching. The funny, well, I say it's funny, but one thing that we forget with our colleagues is sexual harassment. I want to tell a quick story here. This has probably been about 10 years ago. I have one of my best friends that lives here, and I actually taught with his mother. But sexual harassment is something that you don't even want to push the limits of. You don't even want to get to the point where someone could even interpret something as sexual harassment. But Miss Sharon Stewart was I worked with. Like I said, she's a mother of one of my really, really good friends, and so it was really neat to have the opportunity to work for her. Well, every year, at the beginning of a year, and it didn't make sense to me at first. I actually made the statement this week. I was like, man, we sat in that for, I know, at least 5 years. Once, at the beginning of school, this lawyer would come in and he would talk about sexual harassment, and he would just tell every teacher while we're there, don't do this, don't do this, don't put yourself in this situation. And after you hear it 5 years in a row, you're thinking, why are we even here? Well, then if you look in the school systems and you see all the things that are happening with sexual harassment and sexual misconduct, it makes a little bit of sense of why they're hitting you with it every year. But Sharon, she was coming out of the workroom one day, and I had some papers in my hand, and she had just ran some copies, and she was holding them with her two hands, and we walked through the door at the same time, and she turned and I kind of turned. When we turned, the back of my hand hit her backside as I walked through the door. And I said, oh goodness, Sharon. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you or bump into you. And she looked at me and she said, I'm pretty sure that was sexual harassment. And I said, well, I mean, if you say so. She said, I don't know though. I said, she told me, she said, I think there's a difference. I think there's wanted and unwanted sexual harassment, and I hadn't figured out which one that was yet. So anyways, I mean, she joked around. We made fun of it. It was a funny thing, but again, we don't want to play with that. I mean, we can joke about it all we want to, but it is a serious, serious issue. Don't put yourself in any conversation or get into anything to where it can even be closely interpreted as that, because it's not whether, it may not be whether you interpret it as that, it may be whether the other person interprets it as that. And so the big one here, to wrap up the section with teachers, with y'all's, your professionalism toward each other, your conduct toward each other. Again, we've talked about school, but then away from school. I know we like to get together. I know we like to have a good time, but make sure you understand that you're still representing the district when you're gone. Again, I'm going to drag in social media here. What you're posting on social media with you, your friends, your coworkers, or whatever. I mean, be smart. If you're teaching kindergarten, you don't need pictures on there of you to be blunt, scantily dressed or anything like that. I mean, you are still a teacher to young kids, and you don't want their parents to see that. You darn sure don't want the kids to see that. And you may think, well, if they're kindergartners, they won't. Well, some of those guys can work phones better than I can. So the social media piece has really changed all of this. Personally, I would try to stay away from it, and I would, if you wanted to keep up with family or whatever, which I think was its intended purpose, that's great. But when it comes to going out, video and all that stuff, be careful, because it can and will cost you your job if it gets out of hand and gets in the wrong hands. Lastly, we want to talk about being professional towards students and their parents. To me, this is the part that is almost the most important, because our job here is to educate those students, and we have to understand how to handle them, how to work with, and part of that is including the parent. I know in education these days, everybody's always talking about, well, the parent's absent, the parent's this, the parent's that. Well, you don't know if that's the case if you're not trying to reach out. So your conduct toward your students. Again, we're going to talk about just confidential information. If you want to make a mama or a daddy mad, you find some confidential information, whether it's their label here at school, if they're 504, special ed, whatever they may be, or if it has something to do with health, or if it has something to do with something that happened. You don't want to push that out there when you really don't have the right to be spreading it. And especially the confidential stuff as far as grades and everything, you want to make sure that we keep that kind of on the hush. Never endanger a kid. I say endanger, never hinder a kid's ability to learn. We should never threaten their physical health, their mental health, or their safety. Mental health has become something over the last 2 or 3 years since COVID's hit, and I personally, I don't know if sometimes if I'm making an excuse for students or what, but I do believe it's worse now than it's ever been. I'm not trying to make an excuse for them or to make myself look right, but I really feel like that's the case. And so we can't treat those kids in any way that possibly could affect their mental health or their ability to learn. And by that, it's how you address them. It's the respect factor. The way I kind of have figured out to work with kids is I tell them, you have all my respect. I'll do anything I can for you. And you're the one that does stuff that makes me lose respect for you. And I figured out that that's a thing that if I can show them respect, that automatically I kind of gain theirs. You have your few, maybe not so much, but it's a very important way to try to go about that. Next, you should never tell any facts or falsehoods, I guess, to kids. We actually had an instance, I'm not going to describe it, to where a teacher actually told a kid something that wasn't true, and it wasn't trying to, it was almost in a joking fashion, and it almost turned into a big deal. So even in a joking fashion or just lying to them about something, we don't want to do that. So that's not the professional way to handle things. Again, with students, we talk about this with teachers. We shouldn't look at them based on any type of disability. We shouldn't treat them any different because of a disability, because of their race, because of their gender, because they would rather go play basketball instead of go to one-act play. If I'm the one-act play teacher and I'm upset that they're not, I can't treat them any different for that. That's not a professional manner of handling them. Some kids, they pick what they want. That's what they want to go do. We want to support them in every way, form, and fashion that we possibly can. With that, again, we mentioned politics. I don't want to get into any political discussion with any kid whatsoever. Hey, number one is I'm probably not educated enough in it, and I can guarantee you, if I'm probably not educated enough in the events and what's going on and all the stuff behind it, I can almost guarantee you that kid's not. More than likely, a lot of times they're just repeating something that they've heard somewhere else and they've seen it get a rise out of somebody, and that's what they're after. So we do not want to get into that. Another professional part with the students is, to be blunt, physical mistreatment. Do not put your hands on a kid, period. There's no reason for you to. There's no way that it can be interpreted in a good way. So we don't want to do that. We have to be smart. If there's something to where you get upset, sometimes the best time, what I tell teachers is leave. I mean, if you have to be the one that walks out of the room to keep you out of trouble, that's perfectly fine. Myself or Coach Gandy can be there in no time. As Coach Gandy's done a wonderful job helping me out with all that. Here's one that I said, like we talked about earlier, you know, why do you even have to mention this stuff? Well, apparently some people don't know. I think there's a list of 23 ways or 23 things of how a contract employee can lose their job, and almost all of them require so much data, so much stuff that you have to, you know, keep up with and constantly to be able to get rid of someone. Well, I can promise you that any time that you engage in sexual conduct with a student, there's not going to be much looking into that we have to do. If it's proven, you're gone. Again, you shouldn't have to say that, but you see the way the world is today. We can turn the news on and we can see it time and time and time again. And I want you to know that it's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And more than that, you will no longer be a part of Timpson ISD. It just cannot happen. Here's another one that's a no-brainer. Is you can't furnish alcohol and or drugs to a student. You wouldn't think it would be an issue, but I heard rumor that, you know, less than an hour away from here, that it happened in a school district. We can't do that. The tricky part is welcome to small rural America, and so maybe I like to drink at my house, and I allow my kids to drink some at home. Maybe that's who I am. Well, if I do that, and my son's buddies come over, and they start drinking alcohol at my house that I bought, and they're under my care, well, I am still a part of the district away from here. And so if little Johnny that come over to visit my son, if his parents are upset, you can bet that you are probably going to be in a bind. So you cannot. There was actually, I want to say, a teacher that got in trouble. This has been several years ago, and I think it was like a Tylenol 3, you know, or something like that, and was actually put on administrative leave, and I do believe was able to keep her job because of what it was, but it actually ended up leaving there shortly after. So, I mean, just be smart, not just here, also away from here. Communication with students. This is a big one. When COVID hit, it became really hard to communicate with students. Google got really smart. They set up Google Classroom and helped teachers to be able to talk to students as a whole, as a class. It's absolutely wonderful. It was free, so everybody loved it. They've actually got, I called it, but it's actually gotten a lot smarter, because now to do some of those things, it actually costs you. But communicating with kids at school is simple. Treat them with respect. I don't know about you, but I don't want nobody hollering at me. So don't holler at them. A lot of times these kids at home, they're dealing with people are hollering at them all the time. What they'd rather do is come listen to someone that talks to them, that cares for them, and learns to communicate with them and teaches them how to communicate with others. But away from school, I was talking about during COVID, I actually sent a message to Snapchat. I sent the message to Snapchat and I said, is there any way that you could find a way for school districts to use your app to where they could talk with students and send messages, to them? Not that we want to see their stuff as a school district, but to find some good way or good purpose for Snapchat. I'm not trying to down them. They had a great idea. The problem is once again, we've allowed kids to use it in all the wrong ways. Most of the problems that come into my office, Snapchat's usually in the conversation. So in that communication with students, you don't want to have any social media whatsoever with a student. None, zip, zero. I've been asked to add kids on Snapchat, plus I use Snapchat. The main reason I do it is because I like to do some woodworking. I think I've got 54 friends, and that's a lie because I probably don't have that many friends. But what I like to do is take pictures of the stuff that I produce, that I make, and I put it out there for people to see, and that's it. I don't send Snapchats of students to people. I mean, that's not what we want to do. But communicating with them, do not have them on Snapchat or any form or fashion. I do have some students on mine, but they are now considered ex-students. They have graduated. They're actually not just students, but family. But even when they were family, I wouldn't have them on Snapchat. I waited until they graduated, and then I can add you, and we can be a part. Not just Snapchat, instant messaging, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, there's so many. You do not want to communicate with students in that way. If you are communicating with students, I would say to make sure, Snapchat has some great features. I know right now that I have teachers that use it, but it's for a group. So they may have a group that on Snapchat that they're able to send a message to and get it all out there to them. As long as you are not sending messages to the student individually and it's just you talking to them, that's fine. We actually have policy here in the district. What we would like for you to do is to, if you're going to contact that kid by instant message, either have their number and their parents' number and send it to both of them, and or what we've done before is, as a coach, we want you to have that kid's number and another coach's number into it. So don't just send it individually to that kid, because you want to make sure that any message that you have cannot be misconstrued. They can't come up with reasons to say, well, he's saying this, and end up getting you in trouble. You don't want to get into it. It's a lost battle. Again, not too far away from here, somebody decided to add some kids on Instagram as a teacher, and all I know is they are no longer in the profession. It didn't just cost them their job, it cost them their profession. So don't do it. If you're instant messaging anything, make sure it's multiple people that are receiving the message, that it's not one-on-one communication. And I know what we get into is we say, well, that's little Johnny, and I graduated with his mother, and I know him, and I understand that. But what we want to do is we want to protect you. So make sure in any time that you don't use that. Now, this is weird to say. I mentioned using the social media. It does have its good parts to do with groups, and that's in school. Okay, so it seems like it's okay to use it, in school for instructional purposes, for contact, for letting everybody know when practice is. Away from school, it really gets sketchy. If it's not during the school hours, I would suggest that you not respond or send individual or send messages. If you're going to send something out, make sure you're doing it. We usually leave here by 4 o'clock. I would try to have it sent by 4 o'clock. And that way, nothing can be, if you're texting a kid at 2 in the morning Nobody's gonna look at that and think that's okay. I don't care if you're telling them when their homework is due. It just doesn't seem, right. Social media is a great thing, but we have absolutely ruined it. We've gotta be smart in that. And again, just so I can say it, I guess adults are just like kids, and they can become naive and believe that they can get away with something, that they can do this or that or whatever. I have seen, if it gets into a deal and somebody accuses somebody of something, they're coming to get your phone, and they're gonna take it to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, and they're gonna crack through that phone. And I've literally seen to where it comes back and it has a little file for Snapchat, it has a little file for this and this, or for your messages, for all this kind of stuff, and you click on it and it's everything that you have taken or received and or sent out of that app. So you may think, I know students do, they think, well, just because it's in Snapchat and it disappears, I don't have to worry about it. Well, you do have to worry about it. It's still there and it can be found, and I can promise you, anything that is, again, that kind of falls into the sexual misconduct, or however you want to say it, and it will definitely cost you your job. So, kind of wrapping up, I want to go back and read again. Professionalism is a quality that every educator and school employee should have. Every educator, everybody should have professionalism. Understand all the way from understanding the chain of command to understanding how I should talk to students and get messages to them and all that stuff. We have to understand every aspect of it, and understand there's parts of it that if we don't do, it can cost us our job. And at times not even cost you your job, it can cost you your career. So you want to make sure you make good decisions. It goes on, it says administrators. This isn't just, I know I'm sitting here telling you as teachers, but it's not just you, it's administrators also. I should have a mirror set up this whole time so I can see myself, because I'm talking to myself at the same time. Administrators and teachers represent their school district and should do so at all times in a professional manner. Again, I know this is somewhat repetitive, but I need you to understand that all times, when you're here, when you're down at the Quick Stop or the Rancho Grande, you're a Timpson ISD employee. When you're in Nacogdoches, you're a Timpson ISD employee. The big one is sometimes people can't remember what's the name of the place where all the concerts are over in Nacogdoches? Bonita. At the Expo Center, and at Bonita, when all those country music artists come in, or Vanilla Ice shows up, and it's time for the concert, and he did show up over there, if you remember, and they're allowing kids, that are 16 and up, and everybody's just got a different wristband. If you're in there, those kids are going to be in there. You're still an employee of the district, and the scary thing there is you're an employee of the district, and every one of those kids that shows up in there has their own personal camera that they're going to record how you behave that night, and they're going to make you famous. So make sure, again, even away from here, that you do exactly what you should and represent the district. The best thing to do, in my personal opinion, if there's something you want to do, sit on your own back porch. That's the safest place. And it says this includes being mindful that you are still a school employee even outside of school hours. I've heard that in the office before. Well, it wasn't during school hours. You're exactly right. It wasn't during school hours, but you're still a school employee, and you're still a teacher of kids, and so you have to make sure that you're doing your very best. Again, we talked about morals at the very beginning. You have to make sure that you hold up to that high moral standard. And the last thing, and it's kind of weird that I left this last, but be ready to come to work and be on time every day. I leave it last because it's something that in a district right now that we're struggling with probably the most. We have so much absence. I know that COVID has caused some of it. I don't know how every other district is, but the flu has hit us huge around here in the last 2-3 weeks. There's a lot of people missing, and then their kids are missing, and so it's really, causing some issues. Please make sure that you get here, that you do your best when you're here. We want you to live up to our brand. We're not done with it. Our teams, like I said, are doing great. Hopefully our boys play in the regional tournament this week. Hopefully we're able to slip into the state tournament. And that's Timpson ISD, that's us, that's our brand, that's who we are, that's our shirts that we wear that have the T on it. I mean, we are those people. And so make sure that you're not just make your family proud. Like I said at the very beginning, don't give your family a bad name. We're at Timpson ISD, we're the family. We are Timpson, and so let's make sure that we do that. Behind me you can see where it says, Bears make great what? Well, we should make great employees. We should make great mentors for our students, great employees, and not only that, we should be great co-workers. So I hope if you have any questions, you'll find me and we can talk about it. I know that some of you are sitting here thinking that we had to talk about this, and why do we have to talk about it? Because it seems as though people have lost touch with what professionalism is, and it needs to be defined a little bit better. I appreciate y'all's time, and I hope you have a great day, and God bless.